All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to It Takes Work. Who are you?
I guess I'm Jelani.
Oh, and I'm Stacy. So I know it's been a little while since you guys have heard from us. We've had some losses in our family that we've had to take some time and grieve and adjust. And we didn't want to let the month of September pass without making sure we put an episode out. So here we are, episode 7, 3 episodes away from the end of season 1. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you to the folks that have been reaching out like, hey, how y'all putting out another episode? You still doing your podcast? I appreciate that because we just want to serve the audience that this content is for. And we appreciate anybody that takes the time out to watch this, listen to us, share feedback. We are just so grateful. We don't even know how to express how grateful we are. So tonight, we are having a conversation about the importance of feeling safe in your relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean all facets of it. I'm talking about your love relationships, if you're in one, your family relationships, your working business relationships, your friendships. It's just important to feel safe. And it's a conversation that I don't think is had often. I can say for me, I didn't even know what safety in a relationship was.
Yeah, because you're not taught that when you were young.
Right. And so we wanted to take a little time in this podcast episode and just talk about that. So I will kick it off, and then Jelani, I'm going to bounce it over to you because we definitely want your perspective and some of the thoughts that you have around it. And I'll start off by saying, before I get into the safety that I have in this relationship that I have with him, I'll start with the safety I have in my friendships. As a teenager, young girl, a young child, you made friends based off of commonalities. You made friends because, oh, I like her hair, or, oh, we like the same things. And then you get older and you realize that those friendships have much more substance, or need to have much more substance. It needs to be more than just a good brunch buddy, somebody you can jump on a plane with and go somewhere, somebody you can sit on the phone with and, cackle and gossip or whatever. You need a friend. You need friendships that hold you accountable, that are edifying, but also keep you grounded. And I found it took me becoming an adult to see how important it was to have friends that told me the truth, that weren't afraid to hurt my feelings. And when I say hurt my feelings, it's not that they were intentional. A lot of times if my feelings got hurt by some truth that a friend shared with me, it was because it was something unhealed in me that needed to be dealt with. And it wasn't from a place of malice. And so safety in those friendships looks like I am safe to be myself with my friends, which means I can be myself. I can let my walls down. I can say the things I need to say and trust that what they have for me will be beneficial for me, And so the safety in those friendships has made it so that I'm able to mature in those friendships. And I didn't realize that was so important. You want friendships that will grow, but you also want it to be an agent that helps you to grow and helps them to grow. So I found that to be a component of safety that is very important to me. And so now, serving communities with I Am Valuable, the 501c3 that I have, and also serving my daughters and nieces and other women in my life, I'm able to share, how important it is for them to surround themselves with people that are safe for them in the sense of holding you accountable, making sure that you are operating at the level of your best self, but allowing you to be you while you grow through. So that's what that looks like for me from a friendship perspective. And as far as the love relationship we have, because we'll get into the family safetyness of family relationships after I talk a little bit about this love part. I had a conversation with a friend today, actually, and that's what really prompted this subject, because we were going to talk about something completely different. But after having that conversation, I was like, that's a good topic to talk about. So, but the conversation that I had with my friend we were talking about feeling safe in a love relationship, and she asked me a series of questions, and from those questions, I hadn't really articulated how safe I felt with him, but I felt safe with him from the moment I laid eyes on him. I know that sounds crazy to some of you, but because I knew him as a friend for a couple of years before we became us, and knowing him as a friend, I was already able to be vulnerable and kind of experience that safety with him as a friend. Again, something foreign to me because I didn't have many male friends. And I also didn't know the importance of having somebody in your life that would allow you to be yourself as you grow and mature. And that's kind of what we had as friends. And so when we became a thing, hit the safeness that I felt with him. I don't know if that's a word. So all of you grammar snobs, don't message me, okay? But what I felt with him, and when I say that I feel safe with him, I feel safe on all facets. Now, I know somebody said you can't feel safe with somebody on all facets of your life. Yes, you can, because I trust the God in him. I'm not looking for him to execute perfection in the way that he treats me and the things that he does for our family, but I trust the God in him. And so one of the biggest components of safetiness that I have with him is when there's something he doesn't understand, when there's something he's not sure of, he's not going to just try to pull something out of the air. He's going to take some time. He's going to pray about it. And he's going to make sure that the answer to the solution is what God wants him to say. It's not about, oh, I don't like that answer. Go back and try again. If you know Jelani, you know. He cares about your feelings. Don't misunderstand it. But he doesn't care about your feelings more than he cares about what God has told him to say. And that's what I trust in. And that's where I have peace of mind. And when I say I felt safe with him from the moment I met him, I really did. He would take me places, take me home, give me rides home, take me out on to errands and stuff because I didn't have a car at the time. I didn't have a license. And I always felt safe. He never tried anything. He didn't try to manipulate me. And so then when we became us and we shared a home together, I was safe with him in our finances and the way we ran our household. Did we have challenges? Yes. But we were able to have conversations where one of us would be immature with the finances or we both were immature. We were able to have these real conversations that you often run from when you got to talk about money, when you got to talk about somebody not doing what they're supposed to be doing with the money. Those are hard conversations because you can get defensive and all the things. But I had a safe space with him to have those conversations, and he operated accordingly. And our children, it's evident, they feel safe with him. So much so that conversations I know I would not have been able to have with my father. Although I know my father loved me very much, I knew the mentality of my father. There were certain conversations I could not have with him about me as a young woman that my daughters will sit down at a table in a minute and tell their father more than what he wants to know and do it with a straight face. Well, Daddy, this is what happened. He's like, you didn't have to tell me that. I didn't need to hear all that. Thank you. Thank you. But it's a testament to that covering that God has made him for our household and that safeness. Again, don't know if that's a word. I'm just going to say it. But what he offers our family, he also extends to those outside of our household. I have family members and friends who love to be around him, who love to spend time with him, who love to converse with him because he gives them a space to be themselves and it's safe. And he's only going to tell them what's good for them, even if they don't like it. And so that's my 10-minute spiel because I definitely talked for 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you because this podcast is two people, not just me.
Well, y'all got the 10 minutes, so y'all about to get the 2-minute version now. Okay. From a safe standpoint, relational wise, I always look at it as, how do you want to feel safe in a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And you bounce that back to how other people want to be treated. And you just take it from there.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay in a safe environment, the first thing you want to do is make sure you and God have this connection and be on the same wavelength where you can set up that safe environment. Because everybody's going to be different in how you set that up, because everybody is different. Mm-hmm. So you got to take a different approach with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So say like with you, you're like a very, extroverted person, very, I converse with a lot of people. And, you just got to learn how to just address people and meet them where they at.
Yeah.
And set up a space where people can feel comfortable just letting their guard down, which is hard for people to do, especially with a complete stranger or even with family members.
Yes.
So you want to set up a space where they feel comfortable being who they are.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's everybody wants to be. They want to be their authentic, original self.
Yep.
And the only way you're going to do that is if that person you're in a relationship with or you're trying to get to know sets up that environment.
There you go. Look at that. And you did it in 2 minutes. You online, huh? You better be a man of your word. Yeah. What? What?
Very short.
Can y'all see the balance here, huh? He got this long-winded, extroverted wife, and he is almost the extreme end of the introvert life. And he keeps his words simple, short, and to the point. I ain't got time for the fluff. Jelani, you would not do well in politics.
I love the politics salary.
Okay, listen. Hey. But yeah, and I was just thinking as you were talking about safety in a relationship, just feeling safe with someone. One of the things that makes it a challenge also is safe is synonymous with trust. True. If you don't trust the person, if you don't trust what you discern, you are not going to, because feeling safe with someone requires a measure of vulnerability that you otherwise, if you, say for example, is a perfect stranger and you were in a group setting where, the subject matter was sensitive, because you don't know the audience, and I don't care what personal things people share about themselves, that does not equate to, oh, I know you, I can trust you with this information. So you have guards, right? You are not going to, divulge what you would to someone you feel safe with in that type of environment. So that's where the trust comes in. So it's the same thing. So that's why everybody that you are in some form of a relationship with is not your safe space. And I think that's a challenge for us, because I can only speak for me, but I've gotten a lot better. I'll even go as far as to say I'm 99.5% almost completely healed from everybody is my friend, because that used to be my thing. If you had something in common with me, if you liked something about me, if we did things together, you were automatically my friend. And because of that extroverted nature I have, that resulted in me trusting a little too easily. Too easy, too quick. And I shared things. And again, now I understand that not so much about the person as much as it was about the capacity of the person. Didn't take into consideration, they probably can't handle this. And also knowing the position that they held in my life. That's something I think we definitely don't talk enough about, which we will. I don't know if it's going to be in season 1, but it definitely is a conversation we're going to have about knowing people's positions in your lives. I did not want to have that kind of conversation just because it felt like, oh, so you're putting a hierarchy on how people are. No, what it is you're understanding what that person, what their purpose is in your life and what they can handle and what they can't. And just because they tell you, oh, you can tell me anything, you've got to, number one, first thing you got to do is go to God And I'll be the first person to tell you, I didn't always go to God about everybody I connected with. And I learned the hard way. Mm-hmm. And I am so sensitive that I would literally cry about, oh, what did I do to them? Oh my God. Don't agree so aggressively, sir.
Not aggressive. Confident agreement.
But yeah, and so this conversation, I'm glad that it has come up because it's important. Like, okay, so for you, as far as family, because I think you have more family dynamics than you do, I'd say, from the friendship perspective. You have friends, we have friends. Mm-hmm. But from the family perspective, what does that say? Like, I know you feel safe with like your mother, you feel safe with your aunt, you feel safe with, you have a small family. But as far as everybody's capacity, what you can share with whom. How does that measure look for you as far as your vulnerability with your family?
It's about knowing people. Mm-hmm. What kind of relationship have you established with each individual person? Mm-hmm. And you also have to, examine what capacity can they handle information that you share with them. Because, a lot of information that you share with people, certain people aren't meant to hear that because what they might be going through in their lives or past trauma that they might experience. And they might be giving you, faulty information or certain things that you're going through or experiencing. So you got to kind of really be like walking a tightrope when it comes to what you share with who.
Yeah. Yeah, because one thing that we don't consider is you could be putting them in harm's way, entrusting them with information that God knows they can't handle. So then when they mishandle it, God cannot operate outside of his character. He's going to have to hold them responsible for the mishandling of what was shared with them. So it's your responsibility to know that individual, what they have the capacity to handle. And I'm going to tell you, you won't know that of your own intelligence. You won't even know that based on what you think you know about them. That is where God has to be the first one that you filter these things through, that you go to. You make sure you're operating in a way where you aren't breaking people down as you establish these healthy boundaries to, what you will entrust them with and what you want. And I like that point you made too. That was, you have to know people. You have to.
I mean, you don't have to know them like this super
all the
deep
details.
level, but you had to have some kind of level of discernment on what this person can handle. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So say like even if it's like your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, cousins, mm-hmm. It really doesn't. Titles really don't matter. It's about what kind of relationship you have with that individual. Mm-hmm. What capacity are you feeling vulnerable enough to share with that person?
True. And also what can come out of it, right? Like what I'm learning how to do in the relationships that I have is what can I bring to their life? I'm gonna some of y'all know this about me, some of you don't. I used to love to gossip. If the shade room was a thing, when I was coming up, before, the Holy Spirit wrapped his whole arm around me and was like, no, you're not doing this. I definitely would have probably been a staff member and an excelling employee of the shade room because I loved gossip. And one of the things that I didn't understand about that was insecurities that I had, right? I was insecure about who I was. And so hearing about other people's stuff, it made me feel good. That is not something I am proud of, but I'm so grateful that is a thing of my past, a long-standing thing of my past. Thank you, Jesus. I am no longer a tea-spilling, bone-bringing mess because God had put something in me that unbeknownst to me, outside of him, he wanted me to be a safe person for people, but I couldn't be that operating in that way. And so it was things that I had to change about myself. And so now in the relationships that I'm in, and I'm not in many, and I used to have a ton of people around me, a ton, and everybody was my friend. But now I have very solid. I'll even use a word that a friend of mine used. I have a curated circle, curated by God, that is solid. And that circle, when I am engaging with them, even if we just having a good time, if they just want to hang out with me, we just want to get together, you know, what am I bringing to them to edify their life? Doesn't mean we have these deep conversations because we went out to brunch. We brunching, we cute, we having a good time. But still, what am I bringing in that moment? Am I bringing them comfort? Am I bringing them, just support? What am I bringing? Instead of sitting in an environment where we're not edifying each other, reveling in other people's pain or other people's struggles and other people's issues. And I paid for that. I paid for that. And thankfully, the grace and mercy of God, through that payment, there was maturity, there was growth, there was awareness. Whereas if I see it now, I know how to deal with it in others in a loving way. But yeah, that safety, the root of it, as we talked about, is trust.
I think another thing though too with the safety thing, it's like you said, it's a maturity thing, but a lot of times you don't really mature into a really safe person till you get a little bit older
Mm-hmm.
because you've seen things, you've made mistakes, you've seen how your decisions impacted other people. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes you like do like a look in the mirror at yourself, like what about me can I change to help impact or better somebody's life,
Yes.
even with the advice or the conversations that I have with people.
Yes.
Because some people you only go to see them like for like a certain season in your life. So
Mm-hmm.
what kind of impact or what can I say to put impart on them that will help improve their lives going forward?
Yes, that's a good point. That's a great point. And that makes me think about, as we get older, you know, future generations. So the first place that Jelani and I have to start is with our children. Because, although they're now entering into that adult phase of their own lives, they're still in a place where we have wisdom that we can still impart in them that will help them in their journeys in life. So I would be doing my daughters a disservice not to, if I saw the characteristics of that bone bringing, tea carrying nature that I had in one of my daughters, I would be doing them a disservice not to stop them in their tracks and say, hey, this is not the path you want to pave for yourself. And here's why. And tell them the straight up truth about me and why I was the way I was. And I mean, honestly, if I just might be transparent on this good old podcast, I was insecure. I was envious. I was unsure of who I am, uncertain about the things that I wanted out of my life. So when you see somebody else unraveling or you see somebody else struggling and then you might be jealous, you find joy in that. Hence the reason why platforms like the Shade Room and other things, they really get a lot of traction because as people might not want to admit it, but when you're in a uncertain place about yourself, you find entertainment, you find joy in reading about things that other people are going through, and not from the perspective of compassion. You hear stories of somebody hurting, and you have compassion. That's different. But you hear about, oh, such and such celebrity is getting ready to get a divorce and getting sued for $100 million, and you find enjoyment in that. So that makes you ask yourself a question: Why? Why doesn't my heart go out to these people so much so that I wouldn't wish my life on a public platform like theirs are? You know. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't feel that way. I'm telling you, I loved it. I loved all the foolishness. Now, tell you the truth, still love reality TV drama. Still do. Still do. Still watch it. Just as stupid and ignorant as I'll get out. So I'm gonna mature out of that sooner enough. But right now, that's still my life. It is, and is. But yeah, we just wanted to get on here and chop it up a little bit about feeling safe. And I also want to bring up a very good point. In the previous episode, we talked about navigating through challenges. And during that episode, I was on beginning a grief journey after losing my uncle. Well, shortly after that, we had to put down our family dog that we had for almost 13 years. We had him for 12 years. He would have been 13 in December. And so that took place at the beginning of September. And it induced a grief journey in me, still having to process what happened with my uncle. But it induced a grief journey in me that I don't think I've ever experienced before. The pain that I felt, I wasn't sure what was going on. And also filtering and funneling the things that have been projected on you from either things you've seen or past experiences where people are like, it's just a dog. But for me, it wasn't. This was This was our family pet, but he was a part of our family, and he was very important to me because God used him as a source of comfort for me through some very challenging times in my life. And so, going through that, speaking to the subject point we're talking about tonight, one of the safe characteristics in Jelani was I was so vulnerable. I cried every day for almost 30 days, just crying. And rather than him be like, gosh, pull yourself together. What's the matter with you? He was so sensitive to what I was going through. He made sure that I had everything I needed because he knew it was going to be harder for me because I work from home. So I was going to be in the house where the dog was. Everybody else was still, able to get out and go and do things. And yes, I can get in my car and go somewhere, but it still wasn't the same because I was in the house. That's where everything was. And he set it up where, if I cry anywhere, cry in the bathroom, cry washing the dishes, just standing in the hallway, bursting into tears. So he had tissue boxes set up for me. He was always available to me whenever I needed him. My children too. I shout out to my kids, yo. I mean, I be worried about them. I be worried. I think I said that to you. I was like, I don't think they like me as much as they like you. It's like that. I know. I think that's an insecurity I need to deal with. But they really, everybody understood, regardless of anything external. It wasn't about that. It was about the environment within my home. So from the family dynamic and even from my covenant perspective, I felt safe to grieve and as long as I needed to express as many times as I needed to how badly it hurt, how I felt like I wouldn't recover, what the difference in my life would look like. I was allowed to say that as many times as I needed to, and not be made to feel like, oh Lord, here she comes, sad self. Goodness gracious. And because of that, when God decided to, because God was healing me all along. It wasn't a snap your finger, here she is back to, it was a gradual process, and the fathering nature of God was healing my heart and still is. But while God was doing that work, he was using my family to contribute to that healing, which is why I'm able to sit here with you all this evening and do this podcast. Because if I were still in the state that I was in, y'all would get a nice little note that said, hey, we'll be back next month. And because I was hurting. But again, that safety in the covenant and that family dynamic, I was able to be safe with my children. Sat on the phone with my oldest daughter just in tears. And she would just sit there on FaceTime. She would talk to me and say the stupidest things. So even if I'm crying my eyes out, I can't help but laugh a little bit. And my son, who's on the spectrum, although he does not process emotions like we do, he is very sensitive. He's very kind. And he, was like, I hope you're okay. I hope you be okay. And he would always check on me. I just wanted to see if you were okay. And when he saw me, because he went away to school, he was away at school during that time. So when he saw me, he would hug me, all of these things just to make sure I was okay. My youngest now, that one ain't got no filter. That one was like, I dialed it down. But, it's okay to be sad. You'll be fine. But still, even at that, there was a measure of safety there with my family. And so I just wanted to share that point to kind of close up this conversation. So, husband, do you have any other points that you would like to contribute to this conversation? Because you know you got listeners and they be listening for you. They don't really be wanting to hear me because they like to hear your voice. So give the people some, honey. Some. Now, any closing points on safety? Safe relationships.
One. I mean, just in the end, just treat, and I know this is like real cliches, but treat people the way you want to be treated, with love and respect, and you'll establish a lot more, safe relationships in that way. That's always like your start off point. How do I want to be treated? Yep. Nobody wants to be treated like crap.
Yep.
Nobody wants their business out there in the street. Yep. Nobody wants to feel like they can't trust their feelings and emotions with a particular person because they go get it flipped on them and make them look like they're weak or they're whiny or, incompetent. Nobody wants to feel all that. They don't want to hear all that. So set up a safe environment with every relationship, every person you come in contact with, and it'll make your life a lot more simple.
And that is the mic being dropped. So thank you guys for tuning in. Episode 8 coming your way in October. All right. And then after that, 2 more episodes left in season 1 of It Takes Work. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.
By the way, we have a website. So if you get a second, visit Following His Way. And from there, you should be able to access It Takes Work. But if you can't, we're going to put that link in our social media bios. And I'm going to put it in the description of this YouTube video. Because the way that the page is set up, you can't get to it from the Following His Way main page. So I'll get that link out to you guys. But we do have a website. Check it out. Learn some more information. We've also put a web form there. If you're interested in getting some, not necessarily couples, just have a relationship conversation because we are not licensed counselors, okay? We are not, all right? Okay? But we are available if you need someone to talk to. Again, safe people where we would keep your information confidential and between us. You just need someone to, bounce some things off of. That's what we're here for. And we're here for it together as well as separately. Whereas I may be able to serve someone of the female demographic and Jelani will serve the male demographic if that's what's needed. And for those of you who are joining us on our 2023 couples retreat to Negril, Jamaica. Woo! The trip packages are being updated and sent out again on Sunday. Okay? Now listen, as time goes by, the price gets high. All right? So I don't want to hear nobody saying, oh my God,
Lord, that's a lot of money.
Why is it so high? Because you was taking your time. The deposit is only $265 a person. That books you. Okay? So thank y'all so much for joining us. We will see you guys in October for episode 8 of It Takes Work. Y'all have a great evening. See y'all next month.